The Starlight Diner sat like a beacon on the edge of Tulsa, Oklahoma, where Route 66 wound through a tapestry of neon signs and sun-faded dreams. Its 2,000-square-foot interior thrummed with the pulse of small-town life, a community hub where locals gathered to swap stories and savor comfort food. Red vinyl booths gleamed under 100-watt bulbs, their worn edges testifying to decades of laughter and late-night confessions. A jukebox in the corner spun Willie Nelson's On the Road Again, the twangy chords weaving through the clatter of plates and the low hum of conversation. Above the 15-foot counter, a flat-screen TV flickered with the Oklahoma Sooners battling the Texas Longhorns, the crowd's cheers punctuating each first down. The air carried the scent of sizzling bacon and fresh brewed coffee, mingling with the tang of ketchup from the diner's signature, Route 66. Special, a 1-pound burger stacked high with fries. A challenge for even the hungriest trucker. It was a Saturday evening, and the diner buzzed with post-game energy. Families crowded the booths, kids smearing 3-ounce ketchup packets on their fries, while regulars perched at the counter, trading gossip about the high school quarterback's latest fumble. Amid the chaos, Mia Thompson moved with the focus of someone carrying the weight of a dream. At 19, she was a single mother, her life tethered to her 2-year-old son, Liam, whose toothy grin was her reason to keep going. Her waitress apron, speckled with coffee stains from a morning rush, hung loose over her slight frame, but her hazel eyes burned with determination. She balanced a 5-pound coffee pot in one hand, refilling mugs with a practiced smile, though her heart raced under the pressure of the packed shift. Every step was a battle against a voice that had haunted her for years, her high school English teacher, Mr. Hargrove, sneering in her memory. "You'll never be more than a waitress, Mia. Don't bother dreaming bigger." 3 years ago, Mia had stood in the principal's office, her cheeks burning as Hargrove's words cut deeper than any failing grade. She'd been 16 pregnant, and already struggling to keep up with algebra and morning sickness. "You're not cut out for college," he'd said, tossing her latest essay marked with a red D onto the desk. "Stick to something simple, like flipping burgers." The words had lodged in her chest like shrapnel, fueling a quiet fear that she was destined to fail. Dropping out after Liam's birth had felt like proof of his prophecy, but Mia refused to let it define her. She'd clawed her way to this job at the Starlight, her first real chance to build a future. Liam's daycare cost $200 a week, a small fortune on her 9-an-hour wage, but every tip she pocketed was a step toward proving Hargrove wrong. She wasn't just a waitress, she was a fighter, stitching together a life for her son, one 12-hour shift at a time. Tonight, though, the diner's chaos tested her resolve. The crowd swelled to 60, their orders piling up like a storm cloud over the kitchen. Mia darted between tables, scribbling orders for 8-ounce milkshakes and double stacks of pancakes, her sneakers squeaking on the checkered floor. Her coworker, Jake, a lanky 20-year-old with a smirk, leaned against the counter, muttering, "She's gonna crash before the night's out." Mia caught the words, but pushed them aside, just as she did Hargrove's. She whispered to herself, "For Liam, I can do this." Her voice barely audible over the jukebox's strum. Her manager, Sarah, a warm woman in her 40s with a Tulsa Oilers cap perched on her curls, had welcomed her that morning with a pat on the shoulder. "You've got this, Mia," Sarah had said, her smile like a lifeline. "Just be you, now." As Mia refilled a 10-ounce soda for a trucker named Hank, she clung to that encouragement, determined to prove she belonged. At the far end of the counter, a man sat alone, unnoticed by the bustling crowd. He wore a plain gray jacket, his dark hair tucked under a faded baseball cap, and sipped a 12-ounce coffee that had gone cold an hour ago. A worn paperback, its cover creased from use, lay open before him, but his eyes drifted to the diner's rhythm, taking in the scene with quiet attention. He'd been there since the lunch shift, blending into the background like a regular, though his presence carried an understated weight. When a waitress, Ellie, refilled his mug, he'd slipped her a $20 bill, murmuring, "Keep the change." Ellie had giggled to Jake. "Weirdly nice guy. Right must be passing through." No one recognized him as Keanu Reeves, the Hollywood star whose kindness was as legendary as his films. His gaze lingered on Mia now, noting the way her hands trembled slightly as she juggled orders, a flicker of empathy crossing his face. He turned a page in his book, but his focus stayed on the young woman fighting to hold her own. The diner's energy shifted as the evening wore on, the crowd growing louder, their demands sharper. Hank, the trucker, tipped his hat to Mia, saying, "You're doing fine, kid." His gravelly voice a small anchor in the storm. A teenage couple in a corner booth, decked out in Sooners jerseys, snapped selfies with their 16-ounce root beer floats, oblivious to Mia's strain. But others noticed regulars who'd seen the starlight weather, decades of change. Who knew the diner was more than a pit stop? It was a place where stories unfolded, where a single moment could spark a fire. Mia, wiping sweat from her brow, didn't see the man at the counter watching her, didn't know the weight of his presence. She only felt the pulse of the diner, the weight of her past, and the fierce hope that tonight she'd prove she was enough. As Mia delivered a steaming plate of the Route 66 special to a table of construction workers, a man in a pressed shirt stormed through the door, his phone pressed to his ear. Greg Davis, 50, carried the stress of a failing business in his rigid posture. His Tulsa Oilers cap pulled low over tired eyes. His voice cut through the din, sharp and impatient. "Tell them I need that contract by Monday, or we're done." Mia didn't notice him yet, didn't sense the tension building like a storm cloud. But Keanu did, his fingers pausing on the page, his eyes narrowing slightly. The Starlight Diner, glowing under Tulsa's starry sky, was about to become the stage for a moment no one would forget. The Starlight Diner pulsed with the kind of energy that only a Saturday night in Tulsa could muster. Fresh off an Oklahoma Sooners victory, 50 customers packed the 2,000-square-foot space, their laughter and chatter drowning out the jukebox's loop of Willie Nelson's "On the Road Again." Red vinyl booths groaned under the weight of families, construction workers, and high school kids in Sooners jerseys. Their tables littered with 16-ounce root beer floats and half-eaten plates of the Route 66 special, a 1-pound burger that dared diners to finish it. The flat screen above the 15-foot counter blared post-game analysis, with analysts debating a 20-yard touchdown run, while the scent of sizzling bacon and melted cheese hung heavy in the air. For Mia Thompson, the 19-year-old waitress navigating this chaos, the diner was both a proving ground and a pressure cooker. Her first shift a chance to show she was more than her past. Mia tied her coffee-stained apron tighter, her hands trembling slightly as she scanned the crowded floor. Her 2-year-old son, Liam, was at home with a neighbor, his chubby cheeks and toothy grin the fuel for her 12-hour shift. Sarah, the diner's manager, had greeted her that morning with a warm smile and a Tulsa Oilers cap perched on her curls. "You've got this, Mia," Sarah had said, her voice steady like a lighthouse in a storm. "Just be you." The words lingered as Mia darted between tables, her sneakers squeaking on the checkered floor. She scribbled orders for 8-ounce milkshakes and stacks of pancakes, her notepad already smudged with ketchup from a rushed delivery. But the pace was relentless, orders piled up like a 10-foot snowdrift, and every mistake felt like a spotlight on her insecurities. 3 years ago, those insecurities had taken root in a sterile principal's office, where Mia, then 16 and pregnant, faced her English teacher, Mr. Hargrove. His words still stung. "You're not cut out for college, Mia." Stick to minimum wage, something simple. She'd clutched her red-marked essay, her dreams of a better life crumbling under his sneer. Dropping out after Liam's birth had felt like surrender. But now, at the Starlight, Mia was rewriting her story. Every $2 tip she tucked into her apron was a brick in the foundation she was building for her son, whose daycare cost $200 a week, a fortune on her 9-an-hour wage. For Liam. "I can do this," she whispered to herself, her voice lost in the din of clattering plates and customer chatter. But the diner's frenetic pace tested her resolve. Halfway through her shift, Mia misjudged a 3-pound tray of plates, the stack wobbling as she maneuvered past a booth of rowdy teens. The tray crashed to the floor, shattering a 12-ounce soda glass and splattering cola across the tiles. The noise cut through the diner's hum, drawing 30 pairs of eyes. Jake, a lanky co-worker with a perpetual smirk, leaned against the counter, muttering to another server. "Told you she's gonna crash and burn." Mia's cheeks flushed, the words echoing Hargrove's judgment, but she knelt to gather the shards, her hands steady despite the sting. She wouldn't let Jake see her falter. Sarah appeared, her Oilers cap bobbing as she waved off the mess. "Happens to everyone, Mia," she said, handing her a broom. "Keep going," Mia nodded, sweeping the 2-square-foot spill with focus, determined to prove she belonged. The diner's community watched her, a mix of regulars and newcomers who made the Starlight more than a pit stop. Hank, a retired trucker with a gray beard and a 10-gallon hat, sat at a booth, nursing a 12-ounce coffee. He'd driven Route 66 for 30 years, and the Starlight was his second home. Catching Mia's eye, he tipped his hat, his gravelly voice cutting through the noise. "Keep at it, kid. You're doing fine." His words were small, but heavy. A lifeline in the storm of her first shift. A teenage couple in the corner, decked out in Sooners gear, barely noticed, too busy snapping selfies with their 3-ounce ketchup packets. But others did. A gray-haired woman in a booth scribbled a note on her napkin. "Good job, sweetheart," slipping it to Mia with a $5 tip. These gestures, fleeting as they were, stitched together a sense of belonging, a reminder that the diner was a place where stories unfolded. Mia's resilience shone through the chaos. She delivered a steaming plate of the Route 66 special to a table of construction workers, their 20-pound tool belts slung over the booth. "Extra fries, right?" she asked, forcing a smile despite her racing heart. The lead worker, a burly man with a Tulsa Oilers tattoo, nodded. "You're quick, kid," he said, tossing her a wink. The compliment landed like a spark, pushing back the shadow of Hargrove's voice. But Jake's snicker from the counter lingered, his words a quiet challenge: crash and burn. Mia straightened, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. She wouldn't crash, not tonight, not ever. For Liam, she'd keep moving, one 5-pound coffee pot, one 8-ounce milkshake at a time. At the counter, the quiet man in the gray jacket remained, his presence a subtle anchor in the diner's whirlwind. Keanu Reeves sipped his cold 12-ounce coffee, his worn paperback open but unread, his eyes tracking Mia's efforts with a flicker of empathy. Ellie, the other waitress, had whispered to Jake earlier, "That guy's weirdly nice, tipped me $20 for a refill." Keanu's cap shaded his face, blending him into the crowd, but his posture hinted at readiness, like a coil waiting to spring. He noticed Mia's tremble as she swept the spilled soda, the way she mouthed, "For Liam," under her breath. He turned a page, but his focus stayed on her, sensing the storm building in the diner's electric air. The Starlight's rhythm faltered as the crowd grew louder, their demands sharper. A table of 10 called for refills, their 16-ounce glasses clinking impatiently. Mia hustled, her notepad a blur of orders, but the weight of the shift pressed harder. Hank's encouragement, Sarah's faith, and the regulars' quiet support buoyed her. But the memory of Hargrove's sneer, "Stick to minimum wage," loomed like a shadow. She didn't see Greg Davis, the businessman whose stress was about to collide with her resolve, his Tulsa Oilers cap low as he barked into his phone. Nor did she notice Keanu's gaze sharpen, his book closing with a soft thud. The diner, glowing under Tulsa's starry sky, was a stage set for a moment that would change everything. The Starlight Diner's glow flickered under Tulsa's evening sky, its 2-ounce-square-foot interior a pressure cooker of post-game chaos. The jukebox churned out Johnny Cash's Folsom Prison Blues, the gritty chords nearly drowned by the clatter of 50 customers demanding refills and extra fries. The Route 66 Special, a 1-pound burger, piled high, steamed on plates, while the flat-screen TV replayed an Oklahoma Sooners touchdown, sparking cheers from a booth of fans in red jerseys. Mia Thompson, 19, wove through the crowd, her apron stained from a spilled 8-ounce milkshake. Her hands trembled as she balanced a 5-pound coffee pot, her mind fixed on her 2-year-old son, Liam, whose daycare depended on this 9-an-hour job. The memory of her teacher's sneer, "You'll never be more than a waitress," lurked like a shadow. But Mia pushed it down, determined to survive the shift. The diner's rhythm faltered as Greg Davis stormed through the door, his 50-year-old frame rigid with stress. His Tulsa Oilers cap sat low over tired eyes, and his pressed shirt was creased from a day of failed meetings. Greg's 20-year-old construction firm teetered on bankruptcy, and his phone buzzed with a creditor's call, each ring tightening the knot in his chest. "I need that payment by Monday, or we're done," he barked, snapping the phone shut as he joined the line at Mia's station. The diner's 15-foot counter gleamed under 100-watt bulbs, but Greg's gaze was sharp, scanning for any delay. Mia, juggling orders for a table of 10, didn't notice him yet, her focus on a 10-ounce soda she'd mispoured, the fizz spilling over the glass's rim. She cursed under her breath, wiping the 2-square-foot mess with a rag, her heart racing as the rush intensified. Greg's impatience flared as Mia fumbled the soda, her hands shaking under the weight of 60 eyes. He leaned forward, his voice cutting through the din like a blade. "Can't you move faster? I've got real problems, not like your little waitress gig." The words hit Mia like a slap, echoing her teacher's cruelty. "Stick to minimum wage." Her cheeks flushed, and her breath caught, anxiety surging as she tried to steady the soda glass. "I'm sorry, sir," she stammered, her voice barely audible over the jukebox. Greg scoffed, crossing his arms. "Sorry doesn't cut it." "This is ridiculous. I'm in a hurry." Mia's hands trembled harder, the coffee pot wobbling as she refilled a nearby mug, her vision blurring with unshed tears. The diner's air grew thick, the chatter fading as customers turned to watch. Greg's frustration boiled over, his voice rising to a shout that silenced the crowd. "This is incompetent. I want the manager now." He pointed at Mia, his Oilers cap tilting as he leaned over the counter. "She shouldn't be working here if she can't keep up. Fire her, or I'm not eating here again." The threat landed like a 10-pound weight on Mia's chest. She was on probation after dropping a 3-pound tray last week, a mistake Sarah had forgiven, but warned couldn't repeat. Losing this job meant losing Liam's $200 a week daycare, unraveling the fragile life she'd built. Mia gripped the coffee pot, her knuckles white, her breath shallow as panic set in. "Please, sir," she whispered. "I'm trying my best," Greg sneered, unmoved. "Your best isn't good enough." The diner's community stirred, the tension palpable. A teenage couple in Sooners jerseys pulled out their phones, recording Greg's outburst, whispering, "This guy's too much." Hank, the retired trucker, set down his 12-ounce coffee, his gray beard twitching as he stood. "Ease up, man," he growled, his 6-foot frame looming. "She's new, give her a break." Greg waved him off, his voice sharp. "Stay out of it, old man. I'm not here for charity." The rebuke silenced Hank, who sat back, frowning, as 60 eyes fixed on Mia. Jake, the smirking co-worker, leaned against the counter, muttering to Ellie. "Told you she'd crash." The word stung. But Mia focused on the soda glass, willing her hands to stop shaking, her mind screaming, "For Liam." "Hold on." Across the diner, the man in the gray jacket sat quietly, his presence a subtle anchor. Keanu Reeves closed his worn paperback, his 12-ounce coffee untouched, his gaze sharpening as Greg's voice echoed. He'd been watching Mia since the shift began, noting her whispered mantra, "For Liam," and the way she pushed through mistakes. Now, as Greg's tirade escalated, Keanu's fingers tightened on the book, his cap shading a flicker of resolve. Ellie had mentioned earlier, "That guy's weirdly nice, tipped me $20 for a refill." But no one suspected he was Keanu Reeves, the star whose quiet kindness matched his on-screen heroics. He leaned forward slightly, his posture shifting, a signal he was ready to act. The diner's 100-watt bulbs cast long shadows, amplifying the moment's weight. The crowd's murmurs grew, a mix of unease and curiosity. A gray-haired woman in a booth clutched her napkin, whispering to her husband, "Someone's gotta stop this." A construction worker, his 20-pound tool belt slung over the booth, shook his head, muttering, "Guy's out of line." But no one moved, their phones capturing every word, the TikTok algorithm already poised to amplify the scene. Mia's breathing grew ragged, her hands shaking as she gripped the coffee pot. Greg's words fire her looping in her mind. The memory of Hargrove's sneer resurfaced. "You're not cut out for anything." She glanced at Sarah, who was across the diner, distracted by a spilled 16-ounce milkshake. The absence of her manager's support left Mia exposed, the threat to her job a knife at her throat. The Starlight's atmosphere crackled, the jukebox's final chords fading into silence. Greg leaned closer, his voice a low growl. "You're holding everyone up. Do us all a favor and quit." Mia's eyes welled, but she blinked back tears, her jaw tightening. She wouldn't break, not here. Not now. Hank's earlier words, "You're doing fine," echoed faintly, a lifeline she clung to. The crowd's phones glinted, their lenses trained on her, amplifying her vulnerability. Keanu's gaze locked on Greg, his book now closed, his hands resting on the counter. The diner, a glowing stage on Route 66, held its breath, the air electric with the promise of a turning point. The Starlight Diner teetered on the edge of chaos, its 2,000-square-foot interior a crucible of tension. The jukebox had fallen silent, Johnny Cash's last notes fading under the weight of Greg Davis's tirade. 60 customers, their 16-ounce root beer floats and 1-pound Route 66 special burgers forgotten, stared at Mia Thompson, who stood frozen behind the 15-foot counter. Her hands gripped a 5-pound coffee pot, knuckles white, as Greg's words, "Fire her, or I'm not eating here again," echoed like a gunshot. The threat to her 9-hour job, the lifeline for her 2-year-old son Liam's $200 a week daycare, choked her breath. The memory of her teacher's sneer, "You'll never be more than a waitress," surged, drowning her resolve. The crowd's 20 phones glinted, recording every tremor, while the Oklahoma Sooners game on the flat screen played to an oblivious audience. Then, a quiet movement at the counter shifted the air. Keanu Reeves stood, his 6-foot frame unfolding with a calm that belied the storm. His gray jacket and faded cap blended with the diner's regulars, but his presence carried a commanding weight, like a tide turning. He'd watched Mia's struggle all evening, noting her whispered, "For Liam," and trembling hands. Now, as Greg's voice sliced through the diner, Keanu stepped forward, his worn paperback left behind next to a cold 12-ounce coffee. His boots clicked on the checkered floor, each step deliberate, drawing 60 pairs of eyes. Greg, his Tulsa Oilers cap tilted, froze mid-rant, startled by the interruption. Mia's gaze lifted, meeting Keanu's steady eyes, a flicker of hope piercing her panic. "Sir," Keanu said, his voice firm yet kind, cutting through the tension like a blade through fog. "Your problem's not with her, it's with patience. She's doing her job." The words, simple but weighted, hung in the air, reflecting the quiet humility Keanu was known for. Greg, flustered, adjusted his cap, his face reddening. "Who are you to tell me what's right?" he snapped, gesturing at Mia. "She's slowing everyone down." Keanu's expression didn't waver, a small smile tugging at his lips. "Respect doesn't slow anyone down," he said, his tone unwavering. "It's free, and she deserves it." He turned to Mia, his eyes softening, a warmth that countered the cruelty of Greg's words. "Mia, you're doing great. Your worth isn't in how fast you pour coffee, it's in who you are." Mia's breath caught, tears welling as Keanu's words landed like a lifeline. They shattered the echo of her teacher's voice. "You're not cut out for anything," sparking a flicker of confidence she'd buried years ago. She nodded, wiping her eyes with her apron, the 5-pound coffee pot steadying in her grip. The diner's atmosphere shifted, the oppressive weight lifting as customers stirred. A teenage couple in Sooners jerseys clapped, the boy shouting, "Yeah, leave her alone." The girl nudged him, whispering, "Is that—" Keanu Reeves. Their phones, still recording, captured the moment, the TikTok algorithm poised to ignite. Sarah, the manager, pushed through the crowd, her Tulsa Oilers cap bobbing. She'd been delayed by a spilled 8-ounce milkshake, but now stood firm, her voice cutting through the murmurs. "Mia's staying," she said, staring Greg down. "You can go." Greg blinked, his bluster crumbling as he noticed 20 phones trained on him, their lenses glinting under the 100-watt bulbs. The crowd's murmurs grew bolder. A construction worker with a 20-pound tool belt muttered, "About time someone shut him up." Greg pulled his Oilers cap low, his shoulders slumping, and stormed out, the glass door slamming behind him. The diner exhaled, the tension breaking like a snapped wire. The community rallied, transforming the Starlight into a haven. Hank, the retired trucker, slid a $10 bill across Mia's station, his gray beard twitching with a grin. "You're tougher than most, kid," he said, his 12-ounce coffee steaming beside him. A gray-haired woman in a booth, who'd clutched her napkin during Greg's rant, approached Mia, pressing a $5 tip into her hand. "You keep going, sweetheart," she said, her voice thick with pride. The teenage couple posted their video on TikTok, captioned, "Kindness wins at Starlight Diner." The clip already racking up 10,000 views. 30 customers, 1 strangers, chatted like old friends, their laughter mingling with the clink of 16-ounce glasses. The diner, glowing under Tulsa's starry sky, felt like a family, its red vinyl booths a testament to shared humanity. Mia, still behind the counter, felt the weight of her fear dissolve. Keanu's words, "Your worth is who you are," echoed, drowning out her teacher's cruelty and Greg's threats. She poured a 10-ounce soda with steady hands, her smile genuine for the first time that night. Sarah caught her eye, nodding with a pride that said, "You belong." Jake, the smirking coworker, hovered nearby, his usual quips silenced by the crowd's unity. Ellie, the other waitress, whispered to him, "Told you that guy was nice, $20 tip for a coffee." She didn't know it was Keanu Reeves. But the diner's energy confirmed something extraordinary had happened. Keanu slipped back to his seat, unnoticed by most, his cap shading his face. He reopened his paperback, but his gaze lingered on Mia, a quiet satisfaction in his eyes. He didn't need the crowd's applause, knowing Mia felt seen was enough. The TikTok video spread, Hashtags like Bound Stand With Mia and Starlight Kindness trending. The diner's name lighting up phones across Tulsa. A young woman in a booth, her 3-ounce ketchup packet untouched, typed furiously, her post predicting, "This is gonna go viral." The Starlight's 100-watt bulbs cast a warm glow, illuminating a moment that would ripple far beyond Route 66. Mia glanced at the crowd, their faces no longer a blur of demands, but a mosaic of support. Hank's grin, Sarah's nod. The teenagers' cheers they stitched together a belief she'd doubted she was enough. The memory of Liam's toothy grin anchored her, a reminder of why she fought. The diner's rhythm returned, plates clattering, the jukebox spinning a new tune, Willie Nelson's always on my mind. But something had changed. The Starlight wasn't just a pit stop. It was a stage where a single act of kindness had rewritten Mia's story, and the world was about to take notice. A week after the Starlight Diner became Tulsa's unexpected stage, the glow of its neon sign still beckoned along Route 66. The 2,000-square-foot interior hummed with its usual rhythm. Willie Nelson's Always on My Mind drifting from the jukebox, the scent of sizzling bacon wafting from the kitchen, and the flat-screen TV replaying an Oklahoma Sooners highlight reel. But something had shifted in the air, a warmth that lingered like the afterglow of a summer sunset. Mia Thompson, now 19 and a single mother to her 2-year-old son, Liam, moved through the crowded diner with a newfound ease. Her apron, once stained with the chaos of her first shift, hung proudly over her frame, and her hazel eyes carried a spark of confidence that hadn't been there before. The memory of Greg Davis's threat, "Fire her," and her teacher's sneer, "You'll never be more than a waitress," had faded, drowned out by a moment that changed everything. Mia balanced a 10-pound tray of plates, delivering the Route 66 special, a 1-pound burger with a mountain of fries, to a booth of construction workers without a wobble. "Extra ketchup?" she asked, her smile steady, her voice clear over the clatter of 50 customers. The lead worker, his Tulsa Oilers tattoo peeking from his sleeve, nodded. "You're a pro, Mia," he said, tossing her a $5 tip. She stacked plates 3 feet high with precision, her hands no longer trembling, and even took on training a new hire, a shy 17-year-old named Clara. "Just breathe and keep moving," Mia told her, passing a 5-pound coffee pot. "It gets easier." Sarah, the manager, watched from the 15-foot counter, her Tulsa Oilers cap bobbing as she nodded with pride. Mia wasn't just surviving, she was thriving, her steps a testament to a resilience forged in fire. That evening, Mia had signed up for night classes at Tulsa Community College, her first step toward a GED and, one day, a business degree. She dreamed of opening a small cafe, a place where Liam could grow up proud of his mom. As she tucked the enrollment form into her bag, she whispered to herself, "For Liam. We're gonna make it." The weight of her past, Hargrove's cruel words, the struggle of dropping out at 16 had lifted, replaced by a belief she doubted she was enough. Keanu Reeves's words from that night, "Your worth isn't in how fast you pour coffee, it's in who you are," had ignited a flame, one that burned brighter with each shift. Mia's transformation was tangible, a beacon for anyone who'd ever felt less than their dreams. The Starlight's community had transformed too, its red vinyl booths now symbols of unity. The TikTok video of Keanu's intervention, captioned, "Kindness Wins at Starlight Diner," had exploded, racking up 2 million views and trending with hashtags like #Stand With Mia and Starlight Kindness. The diner's business surged 40%, its tables packed with locals and tourists drawn by the story. Regulars like Hank, the retired trucker, started a Mia's Future Fund, slipping $1 and $5 bills into a jar by the counter. By week's end, it held $500, a small fortune for Mia's education. Tulsa Community College, inspired by the viral clip, offered her a scholarship, its dean calling her a symbol of grit and hope. The diner, once a pit stop, had become a pilgrimage site, its 100-watt bulbs illuminating a lesson in compassion. Keanu Reeves had slipped out that night, unnoticed, his gray jacket blending into Tulsa's starry dusk. As he reached his car, he glanced back at the diner, its neon sign casting a warm glow. He smiled, a quiet satisfaction in knowing Mia felt seen. He didn't need the crowd's cheers or the TikTok fame. His act was for her, a ripple in the universe's vast stream. The world would soon recognize him in the grainy video. But Keanu was already gone, his 12-ounce coffee left behind, a silent testament to his understated heroism. His exit, humble as his entrance, left the starlight to carry the story forward, its community forever changed. That night, Mia tucked Liam into bed, his chubby hands clutching a stuffed dinosaur. She brushed his hair, whispering, "We're gonna be okay, because kindness always wins." The words, born from Keanu's stand, were her new mantra, a shield against doubt. As Liam's eyes fluttered shut, Mia felt a peace she hadn't known, her heart full of the diner's support, Hank's grin, Sarah's nod, the teenager's cheers, the narrator's voice, warm and reflective, closed the tale. In a 3-minute moment at a Tulsa diner, a choice to stand up changed everything. Every day, we can lift someone up or tear them down. Choose right. The final image lingered Mia walking to work, passing a Route 66 sign, her head high, greeted by regular smiles. She belonged, not just to the starlight, but to a world that saw her worth. The story of Mia and the starlight offers lessons for us all. First, kindness is a choice, as Keanu showed, costing nothing but changing everything. Second, resilience, like Mia's, can turn pain into purpose, proving doubters wrong one step at a time. Third, communities thrive when we act together, from Hank's tip to the viral video that lifted Mia up. These truths remind us to pause, to see the Mias in our lives, and to stand up when it matters, to you, our audience. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Your support fuels these stories of hope and humanity. If this tale warmed your heart, hit that subscribe button. New stories drop every week, each one a chance to believe in kindness again. Share Mia's story, and let's build a world where every underdog shines. The Starlight Diner glowed on, its checkered floor a stage for new stories. Mia, now a symbol of grit, carried Liam's future in her steady hands. The jukebox spun, the Sooners played, and Route 66 stretched into the horizon, a road of possibilities. In Tulsa, in that 2,000-square-foot haven, a single act had rewritten a life, and the world, watching through 2 million screens, learned that kindness always finds a way.